And welcome to the April 3rd, 2024 meeting of the Daytona Beach City Commission. We're more than delighted to have each of you with us. This time I would ask Madam Clerk for a roll call.
Commissioner Henry.
Present.
Commissioner Reed.
Here.
Commissioner Paris.
Here.
Commissioner Strickland.
Here.
Commissioner May. Here. Commissioner Cantu. Here. Mayor Derek L. Henry.
Here.
Okay. We're going to move on to item number 4, which is approval of the minutes of the March 5th, 2024 City Commission meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. We'll move on to our agenda approval. If there are any changes, our Deputy City Manager will address them.
Yes, sir, there are several changes. Item 80 enumerates the donations, 500 by Mayor Henry to the Eastern Star, 1,500 in New Birth by Commissioner Paris. Oh, sorry, apologize, y'all. I'll start over. Item 80 is added, 500 to the Order of Eastern Star, Mayor Henry, 1,500 to New Birth, Inc., Fairway Estates, Commissioner Paris, 4425 to Fairway Estates Unit 8, Homeowners Association, Commissioner Paris, 25,000 to the Conklin Center for the Garden Project, Commissioner Reed, 5,000 to Bethune-Cookman University for the girls basketball team, Commissioner Reed, 5,000 to Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity for their boys mentoring group, Commissioner Reed. Item 8L should be removed. It's not time yet to bring that forward. There's some additional items that need to be obtained. And please add item 11B, which will be the Economic Development and Strategic Opportunities Division regarding Full Moon Saloon and 2024 Jeep Beach.
Do I have a motion? Go ahead.
Just the 1,500, it's just New Birth, Inc.
Okay.
May I ask what New Birth, Inc. is?
It's for the Howard Thurman Home
New
Project.
Birth Incorporated? Okay,
Yes.
I got it. Good.
So what you're saying is it shouldn't have that Fairway Estates home, okay.
Yeah, I
The
wondered
Fairway
about that
Estates
because it
next.
said, oh,
I'm sorry, it's both there.
So it's not for the HOA.
So there's two add-ons, one of which is 1,500 for New Birth Court, which supports the Thurman House. Sorry, there's two add-ons, one of which is a New Birth, supports the Thurman House, that's 1,500. There's another one, 4425 for Fairway Estates Unit Number 8 Homeowner Association for beautification improvements. There was actually a third add-on for International Free and Accepted Modern Masons and Order of Eastern Star, Inc., Majesty 565, for the annual Easter egg hunt in Derbyshire Park.
It's not in the list.
oh, okay, yeah.
I would like to question, am I fun? I would like to, no, it's not. Okay. Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay, I would like to question the HOA thing. I mean, my whole community is HOAs in Zone 4, and I feel like if I was giving to a HOA, I'm buying votes. And I don't know, something doesn't seem right here.
I'm not buying votes. They have
Okay.
signage on Bevel Road, so it'll also add to the beautification of Bevel Road.
Okay, I don't know. I don't agree with it.
Are there a 501c3, Commissioner Paris?
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Actually, I think our research today indicated that the HOA is not a 501c3. We looked because it's something we always check on. And
Not a problem.
yeah, so we checked and it wasn't, but the reason why it's on here is you don't actually have a policy that, at least in writing, restricts you to only giving the 501c3s. This is under the ARPA funds resolution, which gives you greater latitude, but it's a decision on the commission's part. I can tell you that when I saw this item today, I did research it, and we haven't previously given to an HOA using ARPA fund donations.
We have or have not?
Have not.
Okay, because I'm not in agreement to give to an HOA. I've been on HOA boards, I deal with HOA boards, and I'm not in agreement.
So my question is, how are these funds being used? You said for signage?
Have 3 entrance signs on Bevel Road, and I want to say that 90% of the residents got flooded in that area. The signages got damaged. I would say maybe 70% of the people there were ineligible for any kind of grants that we had. So if I could help out a community and my residents, I would like to.
So is this for the signage primarily for the home, for the
Yes.
Fairway Estates?
Yes.
So would it appease you if she said for the signage, more so than going to the HOA?
No, it would please me if that means the residents are not going to be paying their HOA fees for a certain amount of period of time, let's say a month, 30 days, whatever, because I don't know how their HOA is set up, but all HOAs, we pay in for that specific things. So if they're still paying the residents for repairs, then I do not believe that this money should be going to the HOA.
Yeah. Okay. You raise an interesting concern, but you also have to recognize that I think you're trying to say that you're trying to help your residents. And this is about, when you talk about the money being sort of zone specific, we should be trying, this is just my perspective, and we should be trying to help the residents. We don't have a policy that says that you can't give to HOAs, but I do understand the concern. So I don't know, you're not gonna be in agreement with that, so I'm trying to figure out how to.
Unless the
pull that
residents
out.
are getting a break on their HOA fees. Because if the residents are not getting a break on their HOA fees and they're having to pay for the signage,
Well, they're not paying for the signage, so the money would stay in their account, so they could use it for other things. So when you're saying that they shouldn't pay their HOA fees, I'm just
have you ever been
confused.
on a HOA board?
No, I have not.
Okay,
That's
Ms.
why I'm
Harris,
asking.
When you're on a HOA board, you have, just like a budget, just like the city does, every line item, you, like, for instance, Pelican Bay, we resurface our own roads. We budget for oak trees being trimmed. There's a budget. And you always have an emergency reserve as well. Well, sometimes HOAs don't have reserves, sometimes they do, but they do have a fund in case of emergency, like their signage. So the residents are still paying their HOA fees. So if the residents are getting a break from their HOA fees, that's perfectly fine. I'm happy to approve a signage. But if they're not getting a break and they're still having to pay their HOA fees, and also the HOA is using our money for a signage, I'm not okay with that.
I could find out. I'm not sure about that.
All right. Well, we have a motion on the floor. Do we not?
we don't.
They just added, these are just added on. Okay. All right. Well, we'll vote on them when we get to it. Right? All right. It's an interesting discussion because Commissioner Henry has, I'm thinking back to when I was commissioner, there are two areas, I don't think Suburbia is hers anymore, but Suburbia Estates, they have a wall. But they have a wall there that I think we should use ARPA funds to support the painting and taking care of that wall. Cedar Highlands has another wall that I think we should use ARPA funds to pressure clean it. But it's different because you're saying that they play into a HOA, and then they're two different sorts of things. I do understand that, but I would think that those residents would still get a break based on the fact that it would put less pressure on the HOA. And when we look back at what happened to Fairway Estates, almost no one suffered any more than Fairway Estates during the storm. You know, almost no part of the community, they may have had more damage than anyone else specifically. So I wonder if it would have been, would you have felt differently if how else do they normally upkeep that sign? That the signs that they.
Yes, they do.
HOA normally upkeeps the sign. Okay. Yes, ma'am. We're gonna move on.
So there are multiple places. I have an area also that has HOAs who would absolutely love to have something like this happen for them also. So we would be opening up a whole other line of funding in terms of people approaching and saying, because all those residents drive by those signs also in multiple areas. That's all.
But were they damaged by the
Yes,
storm?
we all were. At some level, we all suffered, yes.
All right.
I think,
There again, I believe that that's partly why we did designate the money into these zones so that the commissioners could say, this is sort of what my residents are saying what they need to.
With that, if then we're comfortable with that, meaning that then each commissioners gets to decide, it seems like, this is what I would like, but we're still voting on it. But, sometimes we vote down things that commissioners want also, so where does that leave us?
I'm not in disagreement with her if she chooses to vote against it. She's given a reasonable rationale. And I think public discussion about it is appropriate. And then voting your conscience is also appropriate.
and I think Stacy would be, or Commissioner Cantu would be okay if it wasn't money going towards the home HOA. Like the two projects in my zone, there is no HOA. There, it's just
Old neighborhood.
old neighborhoods. So they're just old neighborhoods that are splitting city property and the property of the neighborhood. So I think she's saying that the money is gonna go to the HOA, and then those people are gonna still pay more fees, pay their HOA fees, which is what should be those HOA fees should be going to fixing the sign, right?
Correct.
And then they're gonna get that money, pocket the money that they're getting from the HOA homeowners association, and then use the money from the city to fix the sign. And that's problematic. I can see where
Yeah,
that could
but
be
you guys
problematic.
gotta remember, the HOA is probably, which is, I'm not in it, not running the HOA, they didn't budget for the storm. Now, Commissioner Cantu says that.
And how do you,
We're
sorry,
supposed to.
but how do you know that they didn't budget for emergencies? Almost all HOAs budget for emergencies.
And I'm going to add to that, on Beachside, with regard to assessments that are going on right now, everybody on Beachside would love to have some sort of help as it relates to condominiums and HOA fees. Every single one of them would love some help. And I have a lot of seniors, so does Mr. Strickland, on Beachside who are having to figure out how they're going to pay those assessments, and people who have not had a mortgage for years on their one-bedroom condos are now having to finance some of those payments, and they weren't expecting that. So there are many people who would like to have that kind of HOA assistance if we're going to offer it.
And I'm sure HOA is not giving breaks for their fees. They don't work that way. And that would be like me right now. I think they're redoing the whole entrance of Pelican Bay where I live, the West-East Gate. Could you imagine me giving money towards that? I mean, I live there. I mean, I just don't, we have security. Should I give money to HOA to help pay for our security? No. I mean, it just does not sound right. Should I give money to Margaritaville, to their HOA? No. I mean, you have an HOA. You have several HOAs. I have 17, I think, in Pelican Bay. It does not sound right because the residents are not getting a break from this.
So
They are
Commissioner-
still having to pay their HOA fees.
So Commissioner Paris,
Yes.
if we were to pass this tonight, could you go back and talk to the HOA and tell us how they intend to spend the funds that they will be keeping, that they don't have to pay towards the sign and we pay for the sign?
We are paying for the sign.
Right, but they're
Yeah.
caught up on the fact that it's saying it's going to the HOA.
So they could pay for the sign. I mean, to my understanding, it was money could go to a non-for-profit for people that have been, are they?
They're not a 501c3. He said that. He looked it up. The
Can-
attorney said that.
Okay.
And we also said that it doesn't have to go to a 501c3. It's not
Correct.
in
He's
ARCA,
not
so
one
you're
that
covered
doesn't
both
have to go
ways.
to one.
I just want to help my residents. I don't even know if I'm going to be here in like 2 years
think that's-
to
I don't
run
have a problem
again.
with it.
I mean,
And I understand that. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's going
I
to
mean,
help.
I don't live
If
there.
it's going to help your residents and your
Yes.
residents are getting a break and not having to pay their fees, some kind of, I don't care if, I don't know how many residents you have in Fairway Estates, but if they're giving them a break, let's say $5 a piece, $10 a piece from their HOA fee, to pay for that sign that the city is going to be paying for, I'm fine with that. But if the residents are still paying their HOA fees and not getting a break, that's not right.
Concept with that is multiple HOAs on Beachside. All the residents would love me to help them also. And they're in my zone. And I can think of multiple people I could help by saying, yes, I'm willing to offset something, even if it's $5 or something.
So Ben said you could do that.
Yeah, okay, I've got to go back to what the purpose of this, these are ARPA funds. So how do people recover from the,
Storm, if we don't help 'em.
from the, and it's not the storm necessarily, but from COVID crisis, which is where it came from, the whole idea of it. You have to make an assessment as an elected person about how I'm going to help people to respond to that. We as a commission made a decision to give $4 million in rebate to the residents on water bills because of that. Okay? We're not trying to be a commission that's a handout commission, but we're just trying to support our residents wherever they are. Now, I do know that beyond a shadow of a doubt that nobody suffered more than that neighborhood. So I understand if you represent them, you trying to do what you're trying to do for them. So when it comes time to vote on this, we'll pull this, we need to pull this out?
I'll pull it out and we'll take it after the end of consent agenda.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that what we need to do? Because I see here some dissonance among more than one person. Okay.
Because I am happy to vote yes if you could go back to your HOA and say, can you give my residents a break since the city is going to pay for the sign?
Who paid for the signs last time they were redone? In
It'll be the HOA.
Fair West Estates.
The HOA probably did.
HOA.
She's only wanting to help now because
Well,
of what
maybe
they
they've
suffered
never
with the
had to
storm.
be redone. We don't know that. We don't know.
That's true. That's true.
Fairway Estates, they've had to have their sign. They've been there longer than Pelican Bay.
Yeah.
60 years. Yeah. Okay. So would you, we can pull it out and then vote on it separately. All right.
I'm sorry, Tish, is the idea to pull this whole resolution out as a separate item and not include it in the consent agenda? Or keep this one funding request outside of the consent agenda and make it
I
a
was going
separate
to pull the
item?
whole item and they could vote on the item as a whole.
Yeah, the ARPA fund resolution.
No, just that one item. I think the rest of them should be left in so we don't have to lump them in, pass or fail on one, on the rest of them.
That's
Okay.
up to you guys and to
Yeah.
legal, how they want to do it.
And I was just asking for clarification. Y'all can go either way.
That's it.
So,
Yeah, let's do that.
so-
Okay, pull the one. All right.
so do they need to vote on the agenda change?
Well, they need to vote on the agenda changes, so maybe they should not include that on the agenda changes, since this will be a separate resolution by itself, and just
Yeah,
take it
yeah, okay.
as a spring item at the end.
Motion to approve, can I get a motion to approve everything with the exception of the Fairway Estates portion? We'll take a motion from Commissioner May and a second from Commissioner Strickland.
Okay.
All right. All right. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
So we're going to move on to item number 6, which is our presentations. Item 6A is a proclamation for April and the Fair Housing Month. Is Mr. Hood here? If you want to come on up. And Mayor, you have the proclamation.
Who is this for?
April is Fair Housing Month.
Thank you all for being interested in something that is very important to the citizens and residents of Daytona Beach. We had a housing, affordable housing workshop earlier this evening, befitting that it is in April. Fair Housing Month. Whereas the Fair Housing Act, enacted on April 11th, 1968, enshrined into federal law the goal of eliminating racial segregation and ending housing discrimination in the United States. And whereas the Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination in housing based on race, color, religion, sex, familial status, national origin, and disability, and commits recipients of federal funding to affirmatively further fair housing in their communities. And whereas Daytona Beach is committed to the mission and intent of Congress to provide fair housing, fair and equal housing opportunities for all. And whereas our social fabric, the economy, health, and environment are strengthened in diverse, inclusive communities. And whereas more than 50 years after the passage of the Fair Housing Act, discrimination persists, and many communities remain segregated. And whereas acts of housing discrimination and barriers to equal housing opportunities are repugnant to a common sense of decency and fairness. Now, therefore, I, Derek L. Henry, Mayor of the City of Daytona Beach, Florida, and on behalf of the City Commission, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2024 as Fair Housing Month in the City of Daytona Beach, Florida, as an inclusive community committed to fair housing and to promoting appropriate activities by private and public entities to provide and advocate for equal housing opportunities for all residents and prospective residents of Daytona Beach. In witness whereof I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Daytona Beach, Florida to be affixed this third day of April 2024. One day before the day that Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, who probably lost his life more so for his fight for housing than any other issue. Thank you all for your good work to a cause that's important. Appreciate you, man. Good to see you, man.
And then we'll get one with you in just a second.
All right.
We're gonna take two this way, and then we'll turn around afterward.
On this side, well, I don't like I'm handing it to you. There you go.
If we could turn around, he's gonna take one real quick. Thank you.
Oops.
One more.
Thank you.
One more. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, appreciate the good work.
Declined us presenting a proclamation in the Volusia County area.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to item 6B, to the Campbell Middle School, Washington, D.C. trip. And thank you guys for hanging out.
He went him off. Oh, he's gonna eat my other half of my sandwich.
And they're going to bring up the PowerPoint
Cause he's
presentation.
gonna be starving. He's starving. I know he can't.
I'm Kiara Jackson, 8th grade at Campbell Middle.
Hello, my name is Cooper Bones, and I'm in 8th grade at Campbell Middle School as well. This is our learning experience in Washington, D.C. So, should be able to, yes.
Day one of Washington, D.C., we toured the United States Capitol. It was very interesting. We had a lot of fun. Then we visited the White House. We went around. We visited lots of memorials, the Lincoln Park, we went to Frederick Douglass's house. We toured Howard University, and we also went to the Holocaust Memorial Museum.
That's the best.
On day two, we toured the Arlington Cemetery. Two of our classmates laid the wreath down. We visited many other memorials that day involving the history of America. And we went to the World War II Memorial and also the Vietnam War Memorial.
On day 3, we visited the International Spy Museum, the Smithsonian Museum of National History, and the National Museum of African American History and Culture. We learned a lot of interesting and new history that we could have gotten nowhere else, from old spying methods to important parts of African American culture. Thank you for helping fund our trip. It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
I have a couple of questions. Yes. So did you see Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune while you were there? That was in the... Did you say that? She didn't say that. That's what I'm asking. And you know she has more than one statue there.
At least two.
Uh-huh. Yeah, at least two. The one in the mall with the two children, the one in the three, African American Museum, and then Statutory Hall. So weren't you proud as Daytonians to see someone from Daytona Beach? Very good. That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
And I have a commendation. Thank you for having the courage to come up and present and sharing your experience. We invest in you because we believe in you. And we know that one day our world and our community will be a better place because you will occupy seats like ours and beyond. So we count on you, and we count on you to do that. So keep grinding, and we will always be behind you all. Yeah. Thank you. All right.
Okay. So we're going to move on to item number 7. This is citizen comments. During this time, citizens have the opportunity to address the City Commission on any item on the consent agenda. My first speaker is Frederick Brown, and on deck is John Nicholson.
Oh, I gotta drink some more.
(1508) Crescent Ridge, Daytona Beach. On the consent agenda, it would be remiss if I didn't remind the city once again to diversify their vehicle purchasing to include electric vehicles. There's countless studies with correct information that show that these vehicles are safer, they're more economical, they last longer, and require far less maintenance. Not to mention, of course, being a beachside community, the lack of pollution. The fact the city still doesn't even consider them in their options is disturbing. I certainly hope that in the future they will at least put some bids out there. You'll look at the actual facts on these vehicles and you will realize that they are a sound investment, especially the vehicles you have listed here and the purposes they're being used for. Some excellent opportunities to move forward. Unfortunately, we've once again missed it. Also, I'd like to talk about 8I. I'm glad to see this is finally coming to fruition. I'm very much in favor of this. I know Commissioner Strickland's been in favor of this project for quite some time. I also have a great deal of concern on item 8K. 8K, as I understand the project, although the information on the backup isn't very clear on the project scope, is essentially putting a new roof on the building, cleaning up the mold. Just so you know, the entire building is very generously appraised at $199,000. And we're gonna spend $517,000 to put a new roof on that. Now, I'm all in favor of the Coast Guard Auxiliary, don't get me wrong. But is this wise investment of the money? Again, I see we had finally multiple bidders, but all the ones below the one who was accepted were rejected for various reasons. But I'm just deeply disturbed. This building is, the roof area is a little over 1,000 square feet. $517,000. It just boggles my mind. So I wish you would consider alternatives to putting that much money into just the renovation of this building. Thank you.
My next speaker is John Nicholson, and on deck is Evelyn Rodriguez.
John Nicholson, 413 North Granbury Avenue. We were discussing 8K before the meeting, and we couldn't figure out where the location for the auxiliary building was. I believed it to be the building that was torn down right next to it. I went to the documents, and it shows the building is still standing. The building that they're showing outside in the backup material was originally the washer and dryer and room for the boaters. So are we taking over the building that was the marinas for the boaters, and they will not have a location, or are we rebuilding in the old site? Either way, it's in an area that we're looking at building a huge complex. If you remember, we wanted to put in a hotel convention center on the 2 acres that we owned, plus the old armory site. This abuts that location. So I'm wondering if this is the highest and best use of this location, and if we're going to do it, if we have an opportunity to move it somewhere away from that land that we need to develop, because the more land you have for develop, the more choices you have. So if we have the ability to move this somewhere else to free up land for future building, I would do that now. So I would like to know the exact location. Is it that building sitting now that used to be the marinas washer and dryer and facility? Or is it the old auxiliary building that they tore down? Which one is it? Thank you.
Okay. And my next speaker is Evelyn Rodriguez.
Okay, they told me I have 3 minutes to do 8 items, so I'll try to do fast. 8A, I would like to see that the renewals that come back, they should be approved by the city commission and not just the city manager, allow the city manager to renew. 8F, Bethune-Cookman, what you call it, volleyball team, I called Bethune, what? Basketball. No. The agenda says volleyball.
Volleyball, says volleyball.
And for a trip to Costa Rica, I couldn't get an answer from Bethune-Cookman. All I got is the fact that their schedule was, or their thing is from August to November. They lost 21 games, they've won 7. And so I'd like to know what this is all about. Moving on to 8G. The city has an internal auditor, and every year they hire outside auditors, and now we find a mistake from 2019. That's very interesting. The city charter, section 31, gives the city commission duty to review the internal audit every year. Maybe they should consider doing that if no one ever picked that up. Also, if they're going for bids for the outside auditors every year, maybe we shouldn't get the same one that missed that in 2020 or whatever that date was. 8J,
Really?
I'd like to see that each work order come back before the city commission approval because it doesn't state that. For 8K, the renovation about that building on the marina, it says second floor renovation for training for permits and licensing. Why can't they train downstairs right next to their office in those 2 conference rooms? And why is it that we're doing that for training when we're paying rent for code enforcement to be down the road on Palmetto, and they got flooded, so the city had to repurchase all the furniture all over the place, all again. So why don't you put code enforcement in that auxiliary building? 8M, this is the same thing that CRA, I object to the purchase of the property. And now, after hearing from Mr. Thomas, I guess, that we're gonna buy property from the Housing Authority, which is for affordable housing, yet you guys are fussing about not having enough for affordable housing. That doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, so, and then, I'm concerned on 8O. waiving the purchasing code now, because it could give the vendor the power to come back and then ask for any amount of money when they renew, because we're going to be obligated to them. And lastly, is that me?
Yep, your time has expired, ma'am. That was my final speaker for the consent agenda.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Who, wait. Oh, okay.
Take a motion from Commissioner May and a second from Commissioner Henry. Do you have any questions or comments? All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. And Mayor, we're going to take that item on the HOA and the ARPA fund.
You want to take that first?
Uh,
Last.
However you want to do it. We can take it at the end of the agenda
Yeah.
or the end of the consent.
The end.
The end, okay. So then I'm going to move on to item 9A, which is the city manager's office, mayor and city commissioner salary. This is an ordinance on second reading, public hearing. An ordinance amending city code sections 2-57 and 2-58 and creating city code section 2-59 relating to mayor and city commissioner salaries, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
We have a motion and a second.
And I do have a speaker, Mr. Mayor, Mr. John Nicholson.
All right, Mr. Nicholson. Where's my current commission?
I'm looking at something else. I understand that there's a need for a salary increase. I was just lambasting the county yesterday. They had an item that they had not looked at for 20 years. And they had recommended 20 years ago to go up to $8 an hour, from $6.50 to $8. And they're now looking at raising it to $7.50. It's supposed to be $16 an hour, but they're at $6. So we did the same thing with the stadium with Bethune-Cookman. We had not looked at their lease for 30 years. So when you not look at something for a number of years, it seems like a large increase. It really isn't, all right? I understand that there are people on this commission that work their butts off. You see them everywhere. They well deserve this. There are those that don't. But you have that in everything. When I taught school, you'd have teachers that arrived at 7:59 and they were gone by 3:01. All right? You had other teachers that would show up at 7 o'clock and would not leave till 5 o'clock. You have that everywhere. I'm asking you that to make the public aware of the length of time since the last pay raise, and that the relationship of what you're getting to what others are getting. This is really a full-time job. And some of you answer your phone literally 24 hours a day, weekends, holidays included. So this is a fair compromise. I think it is something that you all need, but you have to let the public know, because if you just sit there and rubber stamp this and not let them know why you're doing what you're doing, it may come out as your unwarranted raise. But it is absolutely a necessary and a normal adjustment. If we had been adjusting it all along, you would have been at this stage anyway. Thank you.
And that was my only speaker on this item, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Mr. Nicholson suggests that we express why it is that we think we should adjust the salary. And I think whatever your vote is, Mr. Nicholson, you said it, 20 years. I don't think that much else needs to be said. 20 years is a long time. And so that's, you said that, that's, I mean, just think about everything that's happened in 20 years. I mean, if you just looked at what what you all do, and just in this work. For me, the number one thing that I think about often is probably, well, not number one, but on the list, dry cleaning. Wonder what it cost 20 years ago. And gasoline, my son keeps telling me to get one. He's 11 and he's just bothering me. But I try to remind him that my gas vehicle's paid for. But he keeps saying, get EV. So gasoline, insurance. Just think, it's just like any other American, any other person. You know, and so I have some other personal consternation about this, but I think you answered the question. You have other issues? Anyone else have a comment? If not, we have a motion.
I just want to thank the mayor and the rest of the commission for picking a salary review committee that did come up with a reasonable salary, and also base it upon it being reviewed every year, so we don't have to do this every 20 years. And I know that none of us are really doing this for the pay, but it will cover a lot more expenses. So I just want to thank the committee, the commission, and also the residents, and I hope we do you proud. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Aye. Motion carries 6-1. Congratulations. All right.
Him? The mayor said no. Split, yeah.
I'll
Okay.
give it to
You could divide it up.
We're going to move on to item
luck
number
with that.
10
You don't want
here. Item 10 is our introduction of ordinances. Item 10A is the Growth Management and Planning Department Beachfront Addressing Requirements Land Development Code Text Amendment. This is an introduction of an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance amending Article 9, Section 9.2.b of the Land Development Code to require all properties adjacent to the Atlantic Ocean to install visible addressing at the rear of all buildings facing the beachfront, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. And are there any questions or comments from the commission on this item?
No.
Okay. The public hearing and final action is April 17th. Moving on to 10B, this is the Growth Management and Planning Department, Exalt Health Hospital Medical Rezoning. This is also an introduction of an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance amending the zoning map of the Land Development Code to rezone 3.7 plus or minus acres of property generally located on the southwest corner of intersection of Mason Avenue and Clyde Morris Boulevard from PDG Plan Development General to HM Hospital Medical, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. And do you have any questions or comments from the commission on this item?
A citizen said something to me in regards to this, concerned about the water. So I need to check into that a little bit more to see what that concern was.
In terms of the water, it's a lot on Clyde Morris, just down from the hospital. It's had a zoning on it before. There's a neighborhood around it. Water service shouldn't be a problem. Flooding, they'll deal with the site plan design issues on that. And it's a piece of property that really is surprisingly not developed in that medical core, and this zoning will promote that.
Okay.
Okay. There's no other questions or comments. The public hearing and final action is April 17th. Okay, we're going to move on to item 10C, which is the Growth Management and Planning Department, Fifth Amendment to Tomoka Town Center PD. This is an introduction of an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance approving the Fifth Amendment to the Tomoka Town Center Plan District Agreement to increase the maximum permitted wall signage for the Ashley Furniture Store, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the Fifth Amendment, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. And do I have any questions or comments from the commission on this item? I do have Jessica Gao here on behalf of the applicant if there were any questions. And the public hearing and final action is April 17th. Moving on to item 10D, it's a Finance Department ordinance authorizing a loan application and loan agreement under the FDEP Drinking Water State Revolving Fund Program. This is an introduction of an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Daytona Beach, Florida, relating to the State Revolving Fund SRF loan program, making findings, authorizing an SRF loan application for lead service line inventory and replacement planning in maximum amount of $5,693,115, establishing pledged revenues, designated authority representatives, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute any FDEP required amendments, providing assurances, authorizing the budget officer to amend the budget, providing for conflict, severability, and effective date. And are there any questions or comments from the commission on this item? Okay. The public hearing and final action is April 17th. Moving on to our administrative items, item number 11. Item 11A is the Growth Management Planning Department Majestic Oaks Historic Tree Removal Resolution. It's a resolution approving the removal of 2 historic oak trees located at 860 Nova Road and providing an effective date. Bless you.
Is anybody gonna bless me?
I said bless you.
Everybody's looking at me, nobody bless me.
All right, we have one other item, right?
Well, I don't have a motion or a
Oh,
second
we
on
need
this
it.
item.
I didn't see
yet.
it. Okay.
So moved.
Oh, they're drinking. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, do we have any speakers?
I have no speakers for this item.
No.
I do have a question because this property is located in, it is south of Bevel on Nova Road, so it's part of the Army Corps of Engineers study, and it is in a flood zone. So by removing these 2 trees, I feel it might contribute to more flooding. I'm not an engineer, but these are my concerns about the 2 trees. I'm sorry, did somebody say something?
No.
No? Okay.
As petty as it may sound, Majestic Oaks want permission to cut down 2 trees. I can't do that.
Will this impact? Does it impact the housing units?
It does. It affects one building, it's roughly 1/3 of the units, assuming they're divided equally from building to building.
And how many affordable housing units are in that building?
I believe this is permitted by zoning, and there's no contribution to that I'm aware of.
So what's their total number of housing units? Do we have a number?
Yeah, it's 90-something.
99, I think.
99, and do they have a percentage of affordable units in there?
There's no
No.
required percentage of affordable.
So it's just market rate housing, it's just housing, but
As
it
far
is,
as we know.
but it is housing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. About 90 units of new housing?
99, I think.
99, thanks.
So, Commissioner, you say you're opposed to it because they want to cut down those 2 oaks?
Absolutely.
I don't like it either. 1 oak tree, someone said to me today, can absorb 40,000 gallons of water. And this is in the heart of the flood zone. You gotta set some sort of standard of what's really important. And we have if there's a way to do this with some regard for
I think the applicant's here.
those oak trees, then maybe, but that's important.
How long does it take for an oak tree to grow to become historic? And we're going to whack it down in one vote here?
Mr. Mayor.
I can't do it.
I'm sorry, Mr. Strickland. It looks like the applicant is here to address your questions.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Mir Malik, Meta World Engineering.
I'm Joe Burnson. I'm certified arborist with a company called ECS.
Yes. I guess I just want to take a second to address the flood question. Number one, I guess the main purpose of requesting to remove these trees is so that we can have the housing primarily in the highest and driest part of the site. It just happens to be where the trees are. So the two red trees on the right side, if you can see those. I mean, those are the highest parts of the site. Those are the best parts for us to basically give housing outside of the flood zone to begin with. That's the main reason we need to remove, or would like to remove those two trees, is just that it's the best spot for the safest home. On top of that, you know, just with regards to the flood compensation and things like that, you know, there are codes and standards that we have to meet regarding that. There's, to the science and understanding that I know of, the permitting that we know of, there's no credit given in any permitting agency for trees as a benefit to flood water. You take it and there's evapotranspiration, so it can soak up water and then it evaporates through the leaves, things like that. But they're generally not the best to soak up flood waters. I mean, when they're there and you have to soak up flood waters, I mean, they're there and that's what they're gonna do. But to use them as a sponge, it's not, you know, the trees aren't, that's not, there might help a little bit, but it's not gonna be something that causes flooding or takes away flooding.
A pine tree does absorb a lot more than evapotranspires, about 300 gallons a day. The trees, a live oak will hold some storage, but it's only, you know, during the summer, during the growing period. Right now, it is soaking up some of the water, groundwater, but as storage, not so much, as it loses its leaves, because it is a deciduous tree. It's really not doing much during the outside of the growing season. And we are preserving, or the applicant is preserving, other trees on site. It's just these two trees that are healthy are unfortunately in the way. We are preserving a historic tree, number 334. It's up in near the road. So we are preserving one historic and requesting two to be removed. We feel like we are meeting the requirements of the code based on the plat, based on the three criteria. This was platted. I think one of the criteria has to be platted prior to 2015. The landowners meeting is otherwise in compliance with the other sections, and mitigation is being provided. And again, agree with the majestic oaks. That wasn't our choice or anything. I would hate to have to lose this project just because of the name of the project.
It's got nothing to do with it.
It does
No.
have staff approval.
No. It what?
It has staff approval as well, our application for the removal. Or recommendation, I'm sorry.
I hope they wouldn't recommend cutting down trees, these two trees. This is a substantial issue. And I know that it may seem cavalier to some people. The whole project is substantial. And we just got a $3 million grant from, to help hopefully ultimately remediate flooding in this area. This project is not gonna help with flooding in the area anyway.
It's nothing really. I mean, it's a bowl. It only holds what falls on it. There's nothing really flowing in it, so it's not really doing anything. Now, when we develop it, now there will be some floods compensation, and we'll accept some water off-site. But right now, it is only storing what's falling on it. There's no real flow into it. It's an impacted site. It's heavily disturbed. There's mounds. I mean, it's not that really matters to the development, but you know, any little thing we can check off on that. But yeah, we would hate to lose this just because of the name of the project.
Just because of the name.
Yeah, I mean, I was Commissioner Strickland saying.
Well, it's kind of ironic. You call it Majestic Oaks, and then you ask to have.
Well, the one we're
Two trees down.
The one we're saving is approximately. It's a 48-inch oak, I believe, and it's right up near the road. It's outside of the project boundary, or outside of the development area. And
Not just that.
I'm still a no.
I wonder if we could also mention about the trees that were healthy that went down. There's healthy trees there that went down.
I can talk real quick about that. There's a transients on the parcel. I went out there to do the review. a storm came in on it. This is a really large, one of the, I think it was a 50-inch oak. Healthy, looked great. However, it was blown down, almost crushed the homeless man. The tree was about this far above his cot. He looked up and it was sitting right there. So that the soil itself is not really conducive because of its bowl effect. It's been impacted on either side, which is creating more water in there. And it's really, I mean, all the trees in there were unhealthy. There were a lot of other large trees that were just full of fungus, and full of rot, and at high risk of falling. And I think the soil itself is just not a great soil. We're going to have more blowdowns, on those. And the 2 trees that are saved, once one goes, they all start to kind of a domino effect over time. The roots, we can provide more information regarding the root, but the roots, you can see where the subsidence has happened. So you have this mound, and there's not a really good root mat. I haven't done any excavations of roots, but you can tell pretty easily when you walk out there due to the subsidence of the organic material that was out there.
Question, do you plan to replace those 2 oaks with something else?
Oh, yes, yeah, that's a requirement. Mitigation.
No, I mean, you can't replace oaks, but are you going to plant another tree?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, we're planting more than,
As cute as I am, he said, yes, sir.
No, I didn't.
You said
Say yes, ma'am.
Oh, man.
Oh, sorry. I would never disrespect. But that's required in the code to replant, and as much as you can. With
I
the
think you
building.
mentioned pine. You said that holds water?
Pine trees are like straws when you in the ground table, and there's modeling, right, in the engineering that you have to actually bring in
For the
trees for the stormwater evap. So there's information
on how
out
you
there,
mitigate.
and they can evapotranspire around 300 gallons a day out of the groundwater. Pretty significant during the growing season.
The fact that it's in a flood zone doesn't daunt you at all?
It's not in a.
From a building point of view, you want to make sure that you can have everything above the ground and high and dry for all of your residents, of course. The thing is that we have a lot of mitigation methods for that, particularly when the water coming to you is just the rain that's falling on you. If you're not a part of a conveyance network, if you're not part of a portion where the floodwaters are coming in and going past you, it's a lot easier you can do it more comfortably. Whereas if you are, right in the middle of it and it's going to come past you, it's really hard to kind of work around. In this case, it's not something that the developers are most concerned about. We feel like we can keep all the cars dry. We can meet the FFEs, the finished floor elevations that are required. So, obviously we don't want to ever design something that you can't get to if it's raining. We want everybody to be able to leave, and that's our. So that's why we feel.
Yeah, and the stormwater pond too will compensate for that as well. That's in the back. And that's a majority, unfortunately, of the site. If it's, that's taken up a third of the site is the stormwater pond, which will treat, any contaminants and.
You guys want us to vote to allow you to cut down trees in an area for a property that's already in a flood zone. It's going to impact a flood zone, whether you flood or not, it's going to impact other areas. And you don't have a plan or design. We don't know what it looks like. I personally, I'm not a soft no. I'm hard no.
I think if you look at the backup, there's a concept site plan. I think I'm seeing it right here. We have designed that. That pond will hold more water for your everyday storm than the site currently holds, meaning that in most cases, it's going to help as opposed to hurt. That's generally the way it works because you're required to hold back what you put in. When you build a pond on a site, it generally doesn't put out more than it used to. It holds on the site. So for those lower storms, for the main part, like every storm that you get, we accommodate for. We meet for the 25-year, we meet the codes for the 100-year. So as far as what's in the code and accepted as common practice, we meet all those requirements.
You don't even, this project doesn't have staff approval.
Right, this request is pending, we're requesting that we be allowed to remove these trees with the, pending having our approval gone through the whole site plan process,
Before
you know what I mean?
more money spent on engineering and, but
Conditionally approve the removal of the trees pending approval of a site plan application.
Just for purposes of clarity, the staff doesn't recommend approval of the request. It has no recommendation. That won't come past us. The commission decides whether to allow you or not to allow you.
I'm sorry, I meant to say recommendation.
Yeah.
Came with their recommendation.
Okay. No.
It's really something we felt the commission should hear the applicant, make a decision, and go from there. It's something we weren't comfortable recommending.
If we, let's say we recommend it, what happens? The trees are removed and you put it up. If we don't recommend it, do you continue with your project or the project stops? Do you adjust, change your design? What's the next plan?
Well, I mean, they'd have to go back and see what they can do on it. I mean, without that building, they don't meet a pro rata. I believe this was shown as having,
also, there's, the two trees take a lot of space up there, so really it's kind of take away any of the park.
And you say these two trees are at the front?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm looking at the
They're
street
front
view here.
middle, Dead center, unfortunately, they're located in a landscape that just does not allow for really anything in that front portion of the property to be developed.
And this is that parcel that's between those apartment complexes and the Edmonds Bakery?
Correct, yeah, it's
I'm looking at
it's
it.
not a,
And are they homeless now, you said?
correct. Yeah, sorry, I was out there this afternoon just re-looking at the trees to see if any had fallen
we were
pretty heavily.
told at the pre-application meeting that just a couple properties down on Nova Road, the city actually cleared at their own cost all the trees on the lot because of the vagrants, I understand.
That's false.
What was the?
I was with the police when they cleared it. The trees are all left in place. And just for reference purposes, I'm an assistant city manager, but also handle planning. I spoke to the planning director today, and prior to this, you're not recommended by the staff for removal of the trees.
Oh, okay, well, you didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, I thought we had that.
What was the point of this?
You can make your case and see if you can persuade the commission.
Oh, is that it?
Yes, sir.
Oh, we didn't understand that, okay. Well, we didn't.
Okay, what was the point?
Okay, thank you. All right, do we have a motion? And a second? Okay, we'll take a vote. All,
I'm sorry, the motion was to approve, right? Because you usually state the motion in the
Yes.
positive, okay.
okay, all those in favor, say aye. Those opposed, aye. Aye. Motion fails 7-0.
Or 0 to 7?
0 to 7, yes.
Okay.
Well,
So we're going to move on to item 11B. This was the addendum item. This is a resolution approving a temporary outside activities associated with a festival located at 700 Main Street, including live music and itinerant vending displays in accordance with Section 5.4.C.11 of the Land Development Code, establishing conditions, providing for violations and enforcement, and providing an effective date. Mr. Jeff Brown to present.
And Strategic Opportunities Director. One thing we need also, I'd ask the commission when considering this, is to also include Main Street Station. We're working with them on getting their application finalized and worked out so that they can also have events during Jeep Beach as well. We had initially asked for the fees to be waived, however, we've been told that we cannot do that. And so we will charge them only the $200 per itinerant vendor, which is what we normally do, as opposed to the $600, which is what they were originally quoted, that we do for Bike Week.
We need to vote now.
Please, yes.
Well, will they need to amend the resolution to add the Main
We
Street
would need to
station?
amend the resolution to add the other property, subject to the same conditions.
Okay.
So we need a motion and a second with that amendment.
With that
I'll
amendment.
make a motion with that amendment.
have a motion and a second. Do we have public dialogue?
Not on this item, no.
Okay. All right, all those in favor?
Just one second. For Main Street, it's just itinerant vending that they're requesting?
I think Main Street Station also wants to include some food vendors as well,
Okay.
but they're also considered within itinerant vending, is they're that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right.
Okay. It was an addendum that was added.
I'm unclear about something. So we're saying that they don't need their tax receipt, or they do have to pay?
They will. They will have to pay.
They will have to pay their tax, okay, so I want to know, all right.
Okay. We understand that we don't waive fees. We can't go down that hole by just waiving fees. So you start that, and there's not, I love Jeep Beach, and what they're doing in the community is phenomenally important and great. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. And then we're going to move back to the
Shut up.
ARPA funds for
ARPA,
the,
thank
the Fairview Estates HOA, the 4425, for the subdivision signage.
Oh, yeah.
I have a comment for this. Rather than using ARPA funds, and knowing what this community has suffered, could we just assign this to Public Works?
I would be good with
Yeah.
And just let it be something we do?
Well, actually, I need to beg to differ. So traditionally, under Florida law, a long time back, there was law that basically said you can't spend public funds to benefit private properties. There have been exceptions to Florida law, and one of those is where you, as the governing body of a city commission, decide that the expenditure is for a public purpose. It's got to be done on a case-by-case basis. The courts are going to uphold that decision so long as reasonable people could disagree. If you delegate the decision to Public Works, their decision is not given the same deference. You all need to be the ones to decide to make the expenditure. And the ARPA funds are not restricted in the way that other funds were. They were specifically given to you as an assumption of lost government revenue, during the COVID pandemic. So you have a lot of discretion on how to use those funds. This is different from the Bike Week, Biketoberfest policy, which is unwritten, but in which you've always limited your donations to 501c3 nonprofits.
We need to tell Drew that,
And
because he
did-
is accountable to 501c1.
You said lost revenue. So did the HOA lose revenue?
We're talking about your lost revenue that you're
Okay.
replacing that you could have spent for various government
Okay,
purposes.
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I still do not, it's not right. I've been on HOA boards, and the residents still are paying for that.
Right, but now they could use the funds for something else that maybe they need in that area.
Well, it's budgeted, and if that's the case, I'm totally fine with that.
Perhaps it would be appropriate to make a motion to approve, subject to the HOA passing along the cost savings to its resident members.
And I'm fine with that, yes.
Or could we assign Public Works to work with the HOA to fix the sign because it's a benefit to the public? Because that sign, these signs are the signs that we all use to get into that neighborhood, right? To tell us how to get into that neighborhood. One of my ideas was, and I still have it in some ways, was to give some of these funds maybe to some of the businesses on MMB in particular for signage. Because they don't have, they can't afford to put signs up and way markers and findings. So why can't we do that?
You could, Mayor. You're making the decision to use public funds or forces for the work. I will point out, though, that if Public Works reconstructs that sign, there is some potential liability for the city that it wouldn't have if it were merely funding the replacement.
They don't have to reconstruct it, they can just
If
subcontract it out.
If our subcontractor or the city could be responsible and liable in court if somebody crashed into that sign.
Couldn't
I
they
can't tell you it's a
sign
big
a
liability.
waiver?
We could get an indemnification from them that would have to be
I-
covered by
Commissioner,
insurance.
I'm going to do a what would Derek do? If you're going to do this, don't put the liability potentially to the city via Public Works or a contractor. If you have a substitution where you can control it like you wish, let the association do the work. Don't take the step of going over to where you become a contractor for private property. It's a never-ending stream, for one thing, but you also have the issue of liability just by stepping on the property. And it would be something that, from a perspective of other properties, there will come a time, I think, when you wish you didn't do it. If you fund a contractor that they hire, it's their job, you've done all you can do and you don't have exposure.
Well, I'm fine either way, but I would just like something in there that the residents are getting a break on their HOA fee.
Well, the break is that they don't have to pay for the signs.
But they still you don't understand how HOAs work, Mom.
Okay.
Oh, Commissioner, an HOA does a budget every year, okay? They budget for everything.
I totally get it, believe
And
me.
the HOA, the resident still has to pay their monthly or yearly fee. I have 2 fees I pay. So everything is budgeted, and the residents are not getting a break. And actually, we had some residents in one of our communities that was complaining because of the utility break that we gave the residents. Do you remember that, when we gave well, we had a couple of subdivisions in our area that didn't get the break, but the HOA got the break. Yes, that's what I'm talking about, HOAs. So, because they paid their utility, their water bill through the HOA. So the HOA got a break, but none of those residents in that community, and I believe one of those communities is yours.
I was unaware.
Now, that's how an HOA works. And if they are going to say they are benefiting, it's going to benefit the residents and give them some kind of break. I don't even care if it's $5 each resident, but the resident deserves a break if we're using government money to fix their HOA sign that they already fund for.
Okay. All right, what's your pleasure, and we will vote on what you prefer. You may not want to do it.
I would like to donate the money to the HOA, which is a non-for-profit, to help my residents that suffered. It's not, is it a non?
I'm sorry.
Okay, I might have the wrong information because I did
on,
check this
hold on,
before,
hold
so tell me. What-
It is a nonprofit. It is not a nonprofit it's not a nonprofit that's registered with the Internal Revenue Service as a 501c3 nonprofit. It is a nonprofit,
But not a 501c3.
not a 501c3.
Ben, am I in my jurisdiction to help my residents to make this donation?
If the commission approves
If they
this item-
approve it, if they
We're
agree?
gonna vote on it just
Okay,
right now.
I appreciate
We're
it.
gonna take
I have a speaker.
you got a speaker now. Come on, John.
It's Evelyn Rodriguez.
Evelyn.
Of course.
Could have saved you some time. I live in Fairway Estates, and I think no one in this room except Mr. Morris maybe remember, but Fairway Estates, you'd have to look up the history when it was first developed. The city controlled everything. They currently mow the mediums in the entrances. Some years later, they decided they didn't want to do the signs, so they gave it over to the residents. There's no one HOA. There's the first part that was opened. They have a small HOA in the back. The rest of it is no HOA. They do have an organization that is on a voluntary basis that you can give money. This small organization takes care and pays for FPNL for the lighting, and they just recently went through this long investigation to change the lighting so that it could be brighter. They also do all the Christmas and all the decorations in every entrance, okay? The signs are all wood. They're all just coming apart, falling apart. The flood didn't help anything. It just made it worse because they're made out of wood. The organized HOA from the back section does not contribute. They used to, but they haven't been contributing to the maintenance of these signs.
So
Can I ask a question? Okay, is the HOA certified with the state?
I don't know because I'm not in that HOA. I'm
Okay,
in the voluntary.
so do you pay an HOA fee?
I don't, it's voluntary. I haven't
So-
been paying. because it's who wants to be.
If I can, it sounds like, given how old Fairway Estates is, there probably either A, was not an HOA to begin with when
Correct.
the subdivision was formed.
Right.
Or B, it lapsed. And as a result of the city, presumably for the exact reason that Jim Morris and I were saying, we should not get involved with constructing or replacing a sign, when the city decided that it was no longer going to maintain these subdivision signs, some people within the subdivision got together and on a voluntary basis are trying to get as many of their neighbors to agree to pay for the expense of the signs and some of these other items, but they don't have a mandatory membership among all or nearly all of the
Correct.
members.
Okay, that's what it sounds like to me too.
Yeah.
And, never mind.
Go ahead.
So I'm curious, so it doesn't sound like they actually have a HOA that's certified with the state, so it's probably a 501c3 that they put together.
It's a nonprofit.
Like we have.
Drew, would you be able to explain?
Neighborhoods.
Is that all right if I ask Drew to explain? Oh,
Wait, go ahead.
And so that's what it sounds like, because all the residents you guys don't get a HOA fee bill every year or every month or whatever.
This is more like that situation that occurred in, I think we were talking about Commissioner Henry's neighborhood, where you have an older neighborhood, no formally organized HOA to actually take care of what would have been a common facility. And in the absence of, at least in this area, some people have stepped up, but not everybody. You'd have that crumbling infrastructure.
It was my understanding, I do go to the meetings, and for the voluntary one, they said that that other area used to contribute, but they haven't been contributing. They were going to talk to them, and it was my understanding from what they were saying that since it's just a group of residents that are taking care of this, it was very difficult for them to ask for money. Who were they going to give it to? So
Okay.
I believe that they were
okay,
going to
I
give it to
appreciate
the-
that, and I am fine with that, because it doesn't sound like it's a legit HOA, just like you have a couple, I've told you, in Indigo as well. So, yeah, I'm fine with that.
There is
I mean, but
one.
if there's a HOA that's certified with the state, and then you have to give money, I just want to make sure our residents will get
Okay.
a break, because I
We got-
know that happened in Pelican Bay in your neighborhood.
Okay, now we have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by
Do
saying,
we have a motion in a second?
yeah, well, give me a motion.
I do not.
so moved.
Second.
I did, so moved.
Motion, second.
There.
All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. And congratulations to the people of Fairway Estates. 'Cause
Okay,
we're
that was
gonna
our
find out something else I can do for them.
final agenda item.
All right, we will commence tonight with, who did the
Commissioner Henry.
pledge? Commissioner Henry.
No comments tonight, thank you.
I don't think I'm gonna have any either. Good job. Don't worry.
No.
You don't know.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes, sir. First of all, let me just say, as the current vice mayor, I have the privilege of representing our mayor on Monday morning at Henson Middle School. And for those of you that are listening, adults, children, whomever, it was a program on tobacco-free and vaping. And we met a young man who started, the lady that organized it, she said she used to babysit this young man. He was a professional cheerleader. He had gone through state cheering and what have you, and he started vaping at 18, and he had to have a double lung and kidney transplant. He can no longer cheer. He's no longer in college. He was on a respirator. I actually took notes. He was there for the young people to understand that vaping is not a fun thing. It's not as pleasant as you believe it to be, that it's more dangerous actually than smoking. And this happened to him within like a year's time. It took no time at all. And when they took him to the hospital, they didn't know what was wrong. He couldn't breathe. He was sick. He barely drove himself back home from, I think he was at USF. And because they didn't ask about vaping, they asked about smoking, They didn't understand what was wrong with him, and he was put in an induced coma. When his parents went to clean out his dorm room, that's when they found all the vaping paraphernalia and realized that that's what the problem was. So he and his father were there, and he said that he begged his parents to let him die because of the machinery he was on for so long, and how he couldn't do for himself because of vaping. And you know, some people think the kids think that's so cool. You know, the different fragrances, the different, well, I guess it's taste more so than fragrances, but and flavors. But it's serious, and it was heart-wrenching to hear his story. But thank God he's alive and able to tell the story, and hopefully he'll help someone else. Wow. Yesterday, several of us attended the ribbon cutting for the Chamber of Commerce. What a beautiful new facility! I actually went there when I went through my leadership. I've gone there for several times, but I spent most of my time there when I went through Leadership Daytona. And that conference room looks nothing like it looked when I went through that class. And they've also opened up the balcony now, so you all should go check it out. We of course have our investment, and I'm not sure who did or didn't vote for this, but all of us can now celebrate that that it's done. And we have staff that are there. We have an area for the city, and an area where meetings can take place. And it's just a really something to be proud of. Now, I had an opportunity to visit the Conklin Center. You may have seen the contribution I gave this evening. I spent an hour and a half, almost 2 hours with them last Friday. They have the most beautiful garden area that needs to be revamped. If you recall that the state had actually shut the school down a few years ago, but now a new group of individuals have taken over. And you all, if you could just see what the potential of this garden is, I can see weddings there, receptions there. I can see them having fundraising opportunities. I never knew that the Conklin Center abutted Seneca Road. They have a lake. They have beautiful trees. It just needs, some of their decks are falling apart. They have a greenhouse. They used to teach the blind students horticulture. Now they're having art classes. It's one of the only places in the world where students that are more than blind, that have several disabilities, can come and learn how to take care of themselves. They have mock kitchen to teach them how to prepare their food, mock bedrooms and little apartment things for them to learn how to function in an apartment on their own. They say they have 80 students that have graduated from that school that are functioning on their own in the city of Daytona Beach. That's something to be proud of. You know, I went to the White Cane little program that you and I have gone to before, and I actually allowed them to blindfold me and walk me down the street, you know. And sometimes when I'm in the dark in my home, I can't find my way, and I know where everything is. But I have such a great appreciation for what those young people are experiencing. There was a young man when I went to visit years ago that was from Russia. His parents didn't know what to do with him because he was blind, and they sent him to Daytona Beach to the Conklin Center to learn how to survive. And I asked about him, and they said he's gone back home. He's independent and gone back home. So I believe Commissioner Cantu is going to go visit tomorrow. She's made a contribution as well. It's a jewel within our city to be able to say that we have this special place where young people open. Oh, let me tell you, I even took a picture. They have babies. You never think about people being born blind. They have provisions for babies from 0 to 3. You should see the cutest little bathrooms, little toilet, the little sink. I took a picture. It was so cute I had to take a picture. They have a 0 to 3.
They didn't show me that.
I know. Yeah, I don't know.
It's been years ago since
Yes.
5, 6 years.
Yes.
They did not show me that.
Yes, they have a program for babies. Then when they from like 4 to like 13 or 15, teenagers, and then of course adults. Because if you're born like that, you've got to learn how to function throughout life, period. And I was like, wow, blind babies. It's hard to communicate with a baby that's not blind, you know, to teach them what they need to know. So it's a miracle in Daytona Beach. It's another one of the things we can really be proud of. So I implore my colleagues to take a visit and consider making a contribution. The folks that are there now are excited about what can be done and how they can continue to help that business flourish. Okay? And then, of course, you know all my other comments. Seafood Festival is this month, y'all, April 27th. Daisy Stocking Park opens on April 20th. Come on out and enjoy this and see what the city has done. That concludes my comments.
April 20th. Is that Saturday?
Yes, sir. About 5 p.m. There's a lot going on that day, too.
I know. That's the day of the, what's it called? The Daisy Stocking Open?
At 5. Mm-hmm.
I may not be there. And that's a big, big day in our city's history.
It is. And don't forget also the shred event. If you have anything, papers, documents that need to be shredded, at Mainland High School, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and Crown will be shredding for free All you have to do is bring a pair of socks or a new t-shirt for us to give to the homeless, and we will shred your documents. The people are right there with the truck. They take them out of your hand. We don't touch them, and they put them in the truck and shred them on site. And it doesn't matter how much you bring, because it's not based on your weight. We look at how much we've served the community with the weight at the end. So please consider that. Mainland High School, right up at the top of the hill, come out. Oh, one more thing. I visited with my, I guess they're not a HOA, they're the neighborhood organization of the Highlands. They are 100 years old.
Oh, wow.
Wow. I learned so much history about the Highlands that night. Y'all get ready. We're going to celebrate this 100 years. We've got signage. We're going to put up a banner on the arch. I'm looking at maybe having a reception at the Museum of Arts, because Susan did a video about 5 or 6 years ago that talks about when it was 2 arches and how we split it so that Volusia, which is now International Speedway, could be spread out because there was an entrance to there. Norman Rockwell used to go there. This lady had cards that he had drawn of a family, and one of the men that was with us said the family's still alive. A husband, wife, yes, that he drew pictures of. The husband, wife, a daughter, and a son are on these little gift cards that he had hand drawn. And they said he used to go through the community asking people, could he draw them? It was a father and a son who were artists, and when the grandson came after the wife passed, he didn't want this stuff. They have all these things that these artists have kept, the history of the Highlands. So we're going to showcase that area. And let Daytona know, we were the Highlands of Daytona. And it was Highlands, Coquina Highlands before because of Coquina Stone. But there's some interesting stuff there to share.
Good deal. So,
Okay, I think I'm through.
Yeah. Commissioner Paris?
Our pier is going to be 100 years old next year, and the city of Daytona Beach is going to be 250 years old in 2026. So I hope we could do something for that. Just 2 announcements. The Volusia County Schools is having a job fair for teens ages 16 to 18 on April 18th from 5 to 7 at Mainland High School. And then if you're in the Orange City area, April 16th from 5 to 7. And also, the same day as the Seafood Festival is the 2024 Housing Fair Financial Clinic at Allen Chapel, which is always very informative. So I do suggest everyone go. It's the 27th from 10 to 2. Thank you.
And thank you for that, Commissioner Paris, because we piggyback. They do that intentionally while the Seafood Festival is going on so that it becomes a circular event. They encourage people to come from there to us, and we encourage folks to go there. And if I'm not mistaken, if they're still planning it, the sorority of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated was going to do a health fair at Stuart Memorial Church. So then it would have been a circular event in that area in Midtown on that day. I'll find out if they are, because we'll meet before then.
Commissioner Strick?
I too went to the chamber building yesterday, and I'll tell you what, if you haven't been there and you've been there before, if you get the opportunity, you should go there. It's magnificent. And if I'm correct or not, we do own that building, don't we? The city?
We don't own it.
We don't own it?
No, we don't own it, but we own the land.
Yes.
Is it?
They own the land. They have a land lease. That building's magnificent. You get a chance to go there, and and good night.
Yeah, great.
Good night, everybody.
Yes, ma'am. Mr.
Yeah, I just had one thing. I wanted to see, well, first of all, I have a subdivision off LPGA called Preserva LPGA. It's a very dangerous entrance. And can you put that picture up? And there's no cars. I literally didn't take pictures. But I'm sitting in front of the entrance. This is to both sides, south and north. They both have a bend. And so we lost a 6-year-old little girl that lived in that neighborhood last Thursday night when the parents were heading home, and they could not, and I guess they turned in, and then there was another vehicle coming the opposite side, I guess going pretty fast, I was told, and the car split in half, and the little girl was injected from the car. And this is a county road, and I've been all over the phone with the county and our state officials because something needs to be done. Yesterday, I went there from 6 to 8, and for petitions, and actually had 133 residents show up in 2 hours to sign. And I didn't even realize how many kids actually live in that neighborhood. There's a lot of kids in that neighborhood. But I would like to see if I could get the mayor and the rest of the commission to sign a letter to send over to the county for the safety of these residents. We are really recommending something to be done at this intersection. Even if it's not a light, they need a flashing light. I know I talked to Chief Young. He's in agreement with me as well. Senator Wright is too. Senator Wright did call me, well, actually text me right before this meeting, and he talked to the county, and supposedly he talked to the county manager, and they are looking to do something. But if I could get a letter of support from the mayor and the rest of the commission to send to the county, because we don't want to see another death. I mean,
Can we just send one from the commission?
Mayor, if you'd like, I could draft a resolution after the meeting with which the commission's now approving for your signature. And it's a resolution from the entire commission urging the county to,
I would like.
take action.
take action to make that road safe in those locations.
Okay. I know they did a study and it didn't warrant for a traffic signal because of the counts, but I think it's more than just the traffic counts. It's a safety issue for those residents. And when I was leaving, actually, it was around 8 o'clock, a little bit after 8. I looked both ways a couple times. Actually didn't see any cars. I had to put on the gas because all of a sudden a car was flying around the corner.
Especially coming around the bend.
Correct.
I went last night. I didn't get there in time. Of course, I went at
Right.
8:30. And so driving in isn't that pleasant either, but it's easier because you have the turn lane. But coming out, especially if you're trying to go left, it's dangerous. It's literally dangerous. I mean, and going right, you still feel like you need to
Because you
put
gotta
some
merge
gas
in.
on it and gun it to make sure that you're safe because you don't know when they're coming around that bend. It just feels like they didn't put the exit in the right location. But I don't know if the right location exists unless it was on the other side to the, what would be the south, further south into the subdivision. But it's just no way to fix all of that other than now to have some sort of light or traffic calming measure that would slow people down to stop coming through there.
And like I told the county councilor, we can't wait 5 years. I know they're in the process of widening with DOT and trading out that road, county is with state, but we can't wait 5 years and have something like this happen. Yes, they weren't exiting, but they were entering the neighborhood, but it's still dangerous either way.
Very dangerous.
Because there's no light. It's what?
Oh, and there's no-
Derbyshire.
there's no traffic
And then
light.
there's not another light until Clyde Morris with all those apartments and the medical facilities in there. I don't
Yeah,
believe
but
there's a
that's
light.
not the part, it's on the other end.
no.
It's on the end closer to the stadium. This is
Oh.
right next to the stadium.
Well, I was thinking the
You're talking
preserve.
about the one at,
So
Jimmy
not
Ann's.
that preserve. Okay.
Jimmy Ann's.
He's talking about the
Oh.
one at Jimmy Ann. You're talking about the one at Jimmy Ann and LPG,
Yeah.
which is a big
Another
issue as
big
well.
issue as well.
That we've started discussing recently, and the county has agreed to do the study for the light. Well, I think they've, what was it that the county has done for the light for Jimmy
Actually, I
Ann?
think it qualified for.
It qualified for a
yes.
light, right, it qualified for a light.
Especially for those new apartments.
And you are correct, Commissioner Reed, there is no lights out there. It's completely pitch black.
That's another thing. It's black, so you don't,
And actually, that would be nice if the county could contact FPL, which I know how slow they are, but to get, right, to get some street lights out there.
okay. Anything else?
That's it, thank you.
Okay. I'll make this as quick as possible. I know the hour's late. 3 things. Number one, we did allocate quite a bit of money to Mainland High School, and we're getting the final bill for what that was, but a sizable portion of that was not necessary. So some of it will be coming back to the city. because you only want to use what's necessary based on. And the other thing I want to make sure people understand is that in that situation, we were supporting children and their opportunity to have an experience that they probably otherwise wouldn't have had. Number two, I believe, I'm anticipating, and I have heard that we will have a Hall of Famer. I keep watching ESPN, but I've gotten some off-the-record report, but I don't want to speak out of turn, but I believe that this summer I will be representing the city in Springfield, Massachusetts, because I think that Vince Carter will be going to the Hall of Fame. And that is a significant achievement for someone who was born at Halifax Hospital and grew up here in our city and has never abandoned us. Even now, he continues to, every summer, run a basketball camp and donated millions of dollars, I think $3 million, to the construction of the Mainland High School gymnasium, and many, many other things. So if that is the case, I'm excited, both for him and for us as a community, because it is another way that we're shining a bright light on our community. Number three, and the final thing I wanted to say is it is a pleasure to work with folks who are first and foremost compassionate. You cannot serve people without compassion. And every week I see you all's compassion in areas all across the city where you show compassion for our residents, for our businesses, and for the people that we serve. So that's important. You got to have compassion. But the second thing that I'm pleased about is to work with people who are principled, because you also have to, you can't serve people without compassion, but you also can't serve in government without principle. You got to have some principles. So I appreciate the principles, and then I appreciate tonight the enthusiasm and the love for our community. And that's what I feel from you all. Those three things on a weekly basis. So it's a plum pleasure to work with each of you. And that concludes my remarks.
No comments, Mr. Mayor.
No comments?
No comments, Mr. Mayor.
All right, at this time, we will hear and listen to the greatest residents on this side of heaven.
Our first speaker tonight is George St. Pierre, and on deck is William Bitteroff, but I believe he left. So on deck is John Nicholson.
I understand why this thing sometimes will rain and other times it don't.
Hi, I'm George St. Pierre, owner of Jungle George's at 1022 Main Street. The beachside really needs your help, and as uncomfortable as it is, I'm sure you've all watched the news about the t-shirts that are displayed in all the stores. Has anybody here actually gone down and read these things? Would you like to hear some of the sayings on it? I got "fuck you, you fucking fuck" on a shirt. I got "cum slut." And this is just the beginning. This thing ain't gonna lick itself, and it's on and on and on. You need to go down there and look at some of this. This is what our young tourists, our families spend their entire year saving to come to our city and shop in my store. And I get them coming in going, I can't believe this. We're not coming back here. And you're going to lose a lot of tourist dollars over time. You need to go have code, just tell everybody to take these things off of their store front windows. I know there's got to be an ordinance. I've called code. Code comes down, they take it down. As soon as they leave, they stick it right back up. And when they call again, code comes down and they take it down. There's no punishment whatsoever for this. Their music is blaring out the front of these stores. Seriously, the graphic language coming out of these stereo speakers that are, I know there's no noise permit for this. You can hear it down at Breakers Park, and you wouldn't believe some of the filth that comes out of these speakers. Is there anything that you guys are supposed to help the city grow? I don't know if y'all didn't know this was happening, but I have had enough of it. I am losing business because people are telling me they won't come back here. I have grandchildren that I don't let walk by these stores. And it's not just the two on the corner, which are the pigeon feeding people, and thanks to him, he says that you guys are working on something about this. They have now decided to feed them all out there. The worst thing is there is a penis-shaped pop pipe in the front window of this place on the corner. Is this what you want your tourists to come here and see? Please help us if there's anything you can do. I know there's got to be a city ordinance against this. There's got to be. Even if you turn around, I don't care if I don't have anything outside my front door, but these are on the street hanging outside their stores. Want you guys to realize this, and please take 5 minutes out of your day and drive down to the corner of Ocean Avenue and Main Street and take a look at these stores. And is this what you want?
Go ahead.
So, when
You can
Mr.
have a
Jack.
seat, George. You got a question for him.
Oh, no,
Go ahead.
it's okay. So the bird thing, that's been going on for a while. I'm glad Ken's taking it over because God knows we tried over and over and over, and I made Mr. Jagger ill with the pictures. I'm with you there, right? And nothing has happened yet, and I've been going at it for a while when I was in that zone. Number two was that this is not the first time I've heard this, nor is it the first time it's come to our attention. I had a meeting with the former city manager and Mr. Jagger, and we talked about paraphernalia that's being sold. I brought up a store in the mall because somebody brought it to my attention that you can go into a store in the mall, particular store, and they have paraphernalia on display. And what I was told at the time was that they have an area for it. It's not that offensive. It was in the back of the store, right? This was, I'm happy to say, I'm not going to say the name of the store, but it's in the mall. It's a very open-minded store in the mall. Anyway, so we also brought up some things that were going on Main Street. There was some shops there that everything is just out there, open for display.
Mr., you can have a seat, sir.
Thanks.
Sorry.
And at the time when I had this conversation, this was maybe 2 years ago, I was told there's nothing that can be done about it. But it did come up in conversation because this is not the first time I've heard of this.
Okay. Commissioner?
Ready? I'm familiar with the fact that First Amendment allows them to do a lot of that stuff. However, can't we look at an ordinance that if they're going to sell shirts with obscenities on them, and if they're going to sell sex toys, if you will, that they have to keep them in the back of the store or black out the front windows on the store and put a sign up that nobody under 18 can come in there. People walk in unknowingly with children, and that's not right, especially in our tourist area right there at the boardwalk in Breakers Park. Is it? And I'm addressing our attorney there. Can you look at that for us and
I
see
will.
if we can't?
And you're correct. We're severely constrained by the First Amendment, but it is something that we'll look at with code enforcement and see what we can do. And I am aware that I think it's Key West just adopted an ordinance that goes beyond the obscenity standard, which, as you might imagine, is a pretty low bar. There's a lot of stuff that is not obscene, and they try to get to a vulgarity standard, and I've already got my staff researching that issue. It might be an uphill fight if we were to do something similarly, but I want to reserve a final opinion until I'm ready to give a final opinion on that.
Okay, thank you.
But in the meantime, I'll also say that the sound amplification, from what I'm hearing, sounds like a violation, because we do have sound amplification permit requirements, and that's something I'll get with code enforcement staff on.
Thank you.
A slightly different topic. Commissioner Reed, you brought up the vaping, and I was sitting here going, do I say anything? Do I say anything? And I'm going to say something. Because yet again, about 6 years ago when I came into office, I brought in a study to the city manager and the city attorney, Mr. Jagger, and we sat down and I said, vaping is not a good thing. Let me tell you about a county in Florida, and they have said we're not selling paraphernalia to minors. And I was told that there's nothing we can do about that because they have the right to sell their retail goods. That was 6 years ago that I brought it to their attention.
Okay.
All right.
Our next speaker is John Nicholson, and on deck is Lamenthea Collins.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. I back up everything that George has said, and it's not the first time that this has been brought forward, probably about the fifth or sixth time. It pops up on a regular basis. We have to find some way of stopping it. Secondly, I was at the county council yesterday. They brought up that accident. They are working on it. Third, the chamber is having an open house tomorrow and Friday. I encourage everyone, people here, people behind me, people on the television, to go, just stop by. It's right at the foot of the Silver Beach Bridge, and just park, walk inside, and take a walk. You will be amazed, if you've ever been there before, how open it is, how it's like you're on the water. It really is a great experience. Fourth, absolutely no, the property that we've acquired on Peninsula for a parking garage, absolutely no for parking lot. We have more parking spaces on the beach side than we know what to do with. It is killing us on the beach side to have more and more and more open lots. Housing has to go in there. We are losing residents left and right. We need to have bodies on the beach side to support our businesses. The rec center roof. What are we doing with the rec center? We were talking about saving it. There was a hole in the roof that we did not do anything to for 10 years while Chisholm was here. Guess what? We put a tarp over it, and the tarp's been gone for 2 years. Now, instead of a little hole, you've got a 10 by 20 cave-in. It's going to be much more expensive to repair. We have to look at that. The Corbin Building, what are we doing with the Corbin Building? You have somebody doing it. When they first put it out for an RFP, I was in the office listening to Zoom, or whatever they call that thing, and they were just talking about, we need to lease this. And this gentleman that is doing the negotiation, was very negative. Now, we're trying to get somebody to go into the building, and he's saying it's a terrible location. Nobody's on Main Street. You can tear down half the building if you like. Everything he said was negative. And that's the guy that's doing the negotiation. They had to take it back, put it out for another RFP. I'm asking you to replace this gentleman, because it's been, 7, 8 months? The guy either wants to buy the building or lease the building. 2 options. It shouldn't take 7, 8, 10, 2 years to negotiate this. The guy wants to do it. All we have to do is find a way of saying yes. So I'm asking you to replace the gentleman. I don't understand why you voted no, Mayor. When you were sitting there saying, we absolutely need to do this, there were 6 people saying yes, and then it got to the mayor and he goes, no. There's got to be a reason. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Lamenthea Collins, and on deck is Frederick Brown.
I'm Lamenthea Collins. Come back up here again. I want to address piggyback when I came in back in August 24th about the lots on San Juan. So that was about last year. I've been on this program for going on 5 years. And during them 5 years and the time that I was in here, I became homeless because when I thought that when they signed over, my builder did everything, waiting on the city for these variances that's been taking like 7 months. I'm piggybacking back and forth. Took out 401k to only not sign or have this lot taken care of for me and my grands to move in. I'm here today to find out why is this protocol took so long from the time you said or signed it over to them. I called, I spoke with Mr. Kent, and it's like back and forth, no one has answers. How long this take? I don't want to leave Volusia County. I'm living here, I don't have no family here. I've been with Votrain 10 years. They keep asking me where the house at, where the house. They did everything that whatever me and Florida asked for, they don't prolong it. They don't, they give them what they want. I did what I was supposed to do. I got my letter on congratulations that they're gonna help me with my down payment. All that within these 2-3 years. And all I get is, well, we're gonna call you back. We're gonna find out. There's no one calling me back. Today that they knew that I was gonna come here, I got a phone call. I still said I'm coming here because I wanna know what is the protocol without me just giving up. I'm like ready to give up and just say, forget this. But I waited so long, saved. Not only got a car that's breaking down, trying to, just save and not try to get a new car. But this is where I'm at. I had to come back here to see what's going on.
Mayor,
Yes.
she says she knows, because I like to hear too, because it's been a while since we gave that lot, and you know what's going on with Mid-Florida Housing? Okay.
Phoebe Fuquay, redevelopment. So what's happened is there is a process that they have to go through. So we were waiting on the surveys, we received the surveys, and then now we have to do a variance change because of the particular lot based off of the floor plans that were provided. So based off the floor plans, there's a little discrepancy when it came to the actual dimensions of the floor plans. And so what we have to do is make sure that based off the survey, we needed to see what's right. So right now in the discovery, and then after that, then a variance will go into place for us to complete the process.
How long is discovery?
Well, discovery is right now just waiting on the answer from the developer. So I received an email this morning and just comparing the dimensions. So I reached out to Mid-Florida, which is Ms. Lydia, and then asked them to compare the existing floor plans that I received and making sure that was correct. The surveyors, we go off of that because that's what we contract out, and then the floor plans are what we were provided from the developer.
Was she able to answer you today that those floor plans were correct?
So I just received the developer's information, so now we have to just compare. So I should have an answer by tomorrow.
How can we expedite this for her? Because it has been a while since she's been here.
Yeah, so since it's been on my desk, I've been moving as quickly as possible. Also communicating with P&L to work on getting the variance. We can't do a special meeting as far as with the variance because we have to have everyone together. The board has to come together, and if we don't have a quorum, we won't be able to have a special.
Is that the Board of Adjustment?
That's, yes,
They
the
do
Board of
variance. That's the
Adjustment.
board I came from.
Yes.
And they meet once a month.
That's correct. So they're not meeting this month. I know we're requesting a special meeting, but we can't do that this month. Yes.
Will you come see me tomorrow?
Sure.
6.22 of the LDC does provide some, I think, I can't pull it up on my computer died or my phone right now. but I think there might be some minor adjustments that can be made administratively
Okay,
under these circumstances, but I don't know, if you'll come talk to me too.
okay.
Can we get a report on this, the next commission meeting, of what's happening?
Sure.
Because it has been a while, and I know how excited she was when she
Yeah.
first started.
Yeah.
'Cause
And
she
homeless,
thought there was
Jesus.
gonna be something going on, so.
Yeah, because everything pretty much started as far as on my desk in January. So we've been, expediting as best as possible. It's just waiting on the communication from, all parties. So.
It just need to be just a better communication, because I would've never took my 401k out. When I signed that contract, I was ready to go, and it took a whole year. So I had to use that money for housing.
And if we could keep, okay, if we can keep her informed too of what's
Absolutely.
going on, I would really appreciate that as well.
Absolutely.
Our next speaker is Fred Brown, and on deck is Marjorie Johnson. I'm sorry, Frederick Brown.
Frederick Brown, 1508 Crescent Ridge, Daytona Beach. Kind of tough to follow that one, because I remember when it did get approved. And it's amazing how red tape can slow down a project.
Indeed.
How it can slow down many projects. Anyway, Mr. Mayor, I want to compliment your son. I knew there was something special about him when I first met him. Next time I see him, I'm going to remind him to keep on his dad. EVs are the way to go. Several things I wanted to talk about, of course, always flooding. And again, there is solutions. I have provided the information to you. I still believe that we need to, as a city, collectively get together with the county, state, and federal and get this done. Because putting Band-Aids on a really bad problem doesn't work. We need to take it seriously. There were so many things that went on this evening that I wanted to comment on. Vince Carter, amazing player, amazing to this community, and I commend you on going up there. Hopefully he'll be in. So, and I had mentioned this before about safety. I know Commissioner Cantu's on board there. You know, when you keep hearing about people getting killed on our highways, pedestrians, it bothers me. I've had them killed at the end of my street. It's the darkest stretch on South Atlantic. The recent accident during Bike Week, and I told the officers on the scene, make sure you take pictures of all the lights that weren't working. Florida Power has had a free pass in Daytona for a long time. There has got to be an answer where they are held accountable. And I know as a citizen, I've gone and I've filled out the little reports and I put them down. This light's not working, that light, and they sit there for 6 months and then they automatically delete them. They never come out and fix them. There's still lights out on my road. They've been out now for over 2 years. There's the infrastructure. I've talked to the workers that work on them. I talked to the contractors. I've talked to the people that came up to repair the damage after the hurricanes. And they're just the same thing. FPL does not care. So the city of Daytona has got to make FPL care. We've got to do something. I would like to see our code enforcement go in, and anytime that there is a electrical situation that is dangerous, that it be reported from the city of Daytona Beach to have it corrected. There are many power lines that are in terrible condition. There are many poles that are in terrible condition. And of course, the street lights continue to go out and they just don't care. It needs more horsepower, okay? Because citizens, they just ignore us. I know, I've filled them out. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Marjorie Johnson, and on deck is Jenny Nazat.
Actually, I agree with Mr. Brown, but on the streetlights, I actually agree with Mr. Brown, but I can tell you FPL is regulated by the state, and there's nothing we can do. Even the city actually has a rough time. I know everyone does, trying to get them to do anything. But do agree, absolutely.
I'm glad Paula Reed is leaving.
She can run, but she can't hide. Tonight, you all gave yourself raises, and I knew that you would do that. We don't have access to our commissioners, and I see a lot of things going on here that never happened. Like tonight, Ms. Cantu talked about the HOH, and everybody knows that all the HOH are not the same. This is an older community over here. This woman is very intelligent, and your place is a different place. So we don't need to spend a whole lot of time demeaning these people when they get up here and bring up what's going on, and she's trying to look out for her residents. And we need more people. We have no communication with you, Mayor Henry. When Richie was here, we could go and meet with him. When the old city manager was here, we could go meet with him. All of this stuff had disappeared. Then you came along and took us completely out of the meeting. And that went on for some time until I got up here and made you put the resident back in the city commission meeting. You're the only person that ever did that in the whole history of the city of Daytona, Almond, Holly Hill. Also, 19 mayors out here had people speaking before you made your comments. So the night that I got up and spoke, I asked you to put us back in the meeting, and then you said, oh, we want to speak before them. We'll go to Holly Hill. He's on my Facebook. I got the mayor of all the towns, and they are concerned about their residents, and they make sure that they're all treated with respect. So there's a lot of talking going on here. And while the people are talking over here, there's a lot of unprofessional conduct going on, and I like to see this improve. I am so delighted that this is an election year. We need some people here who are concerned about our residents. Also, I'd like to thank Ken Thomas for the outstanding job that he's doing improving redevelopment in my community and in Midtown. He's doing an outstanding, excellent job. Before he became our redevelopment manager, very little work was being done in our community. So what I'm here tonight is to inspire hope through action. You can show us action when you respect our residents. Don't have a conversation going on over here all night, back and forth. Unprofessional conduct should not be going on at City Hall. Richie, who was the mayor, he never had any of this going on. People was not walking out of meetings, turning their back. Ken Southall came here and blasted her for doing that, Paul Reed. So you get F grades tonight. When you're not doing your work, F, F, F. Have a good night.
Our final speaker tonight is Jenny Nazak.
Oh, come on, Jenny. I really want to be your friend on Facebook. Miss Johnson. I really do. Go ahead.
Jenny Nazak, 501 Harvey.
Ma'am.
Your time is up. Your time is up.
Jenny Nazak, 501 Harvey. I was really happy to be able to attend the affordable housing workshop this afternoon. I really appreciate everybody's compassion and dedication and principle, and the various menu of options and things that you all came up with is very well thought out, and I think it is going to work. And also, it can seem like our city just, we're going to give, and give. But the thing is, we are doing something good, and we are going to get a benefit. Every kind of housing at every level of pricing for residents is going to be of benefit to our city and make us an even better place to live. Like my JN pal back there, John Nicholson, every time there's enough housing density, there's better business density. So I live in the hubbub of the tourist zone on the beach side where the cuss words fly, you know. I have to code switch when I cross the bridge over here. But anyway, so we have lost 3 laundromats. We have lost a bicycle repair shop. We're losing the Walgreens off of Seabreeze. It's like a drain. My house now abuts 3 vacant properties. There's the empty lot on South Oleander that was sold for someone that is supposed to put a house on there, but they got held up somehow. I don't know what's up with that. Frank Heckman's old property just got bought by some investor from South Florida when a bunch of locals were trying to buy it and be landlords. Then next to me, there is one of the 36 empty properties owned by a beachside landlord who has a bunch of empty properties. And it's really hard. So those could all be really great affordable housing that is not in the floodplain. There are some tools we have available as well, in addition to the various options you guys thought up. One thing that some cities are trying is a vacancy tax. That could be a hard sell here where property rights reign, but as the housing crisis worsens, a lot of places are saying you need to rent it out, or you need to sell it, or you're going to pay an escalating vacancy tax, and they're making it stick. There is also a growing nationwide and global movement against the commoditization of housing, because the housing crisis has gotten so bad everywhere that people are fed up with housing being an investment and all these giant companies buying up everything from senior mobile home parks to apartment buildings to just vacant houses in neighborhoods. It harms us all. Vacancy is one of the most pernicious things. I made that speech in 2015 at that mini TED Talk style event called Filling Our Vacant Spaces or whatever it was, still up there on YouTube. Anyway, same stuff. Thank you all.
Thank you. Good night, Daytona Beach.
Where was that?